I want to talk a little bit about artifacts, and in more particular, the answers to artifacts. So to start this off, I think we should begin with what the term binary means. Old Goldweather was an example of a very binary mechanic. If the opponent had a Clear Skies effect, the card is worth something like 0 to 6 points, and if they didn't have a Clear Skies effect, that just ran away with the game entirely, right? It would just tick every turn for ridiculous numbers, and in a 10-card round, they could get up to like 60 points with Goldweather, ticking on all 3 rows every turn. But over time, this slowly fixed itself through card design a little bit. Part of it was people realized like how certain cards worked. Like Greatswords were capable of tanking weather ticks without needing to play like any clears by itself, right? The weather would tick on the Greatsword would grow, and the weather would be invalidated on the row that the Greatsword was on. Armor effects in Northern Realms, for example, also did the same thing, right? The armor soaked up the damage, and in some cases you got a benefit out of something like a Redinian Elite, or the 7 with 2 armor that got +2 every time it lost the armor. No one played the card, I don't know what it was called, but the card existed, right? There were cards like that. Similarly, there was a bronze clear in every faction, which, while it didn't like blow out Goldweather, but it answered one row in a sort of fractional way. It wasn't all or nothing anymore. You could answer Goldweather without having to answer the entire Goldweather. Your bronze could answer a third of the Goldweather, and also get a little bit of extra value on the side in matchups where the weather didn't matter as much. So all these factors came together, and weather was kind of in a good spot before Homecoming, right? People played weather mages, and that was really the main source of weather. Goldweather was teched in maybe like Mill and some reveal decks, but for the most part, no one really played Goldweather anymore. And if they did, Axeman played Goldweather, I guess. But for the most part, I would say weather was in a good spot, right? You didn't feel too bad when your opponent weathered you because you were probably playing weather mages for other reasons. You had bronze clears, you were playing Greatswords, you were playing armor, you were playing Shoop. Shoop had a built-in Clear Skies effect. There are a bunch of ways to answer weather before Homecoming, right? So I mentioned fractional answers a bit, and units are a great example of there being a lot of different fractional answers. If you want to deal with a unit, you can destroy that unit. You can damage that unit. You can damage that unit over time to eventually kill it. You can lock it. You can move it away to a row where its ability doesn't matter anymore, if it has like reach or if it's row locked. And there are other mechanics that interact with units as well. Like you have weather. It's the only one that comes to mind right now, but you had weather, right? So there are a lot of ways to interact with units other than just like all or nothing destroy them. We have all these great mechanics for units, and what do we have for artifacts, right? We just can destroy them. There's no locking them. There's no moving them off of their row. They're not row locked in any way. Movement can't target artifacts. You can't ping them. Weather has no effect. When your opponent plays an artifact, either you play artifact removal at a very good trade up in almost every case. Like if you Bomb Heaver a Wyvern Scale Shield, you're trading up like 3 provisions. And that's with the neutral artifact removal. Not even to mention like when you're hitting a Sihil or a Thunderbolt Potion that didn't have any charges used out of it. In general, removal trades up very, very well with artifacts, and that's part of what makes them in kind of a bad spot right now. So the first fix for this is I would make artifact removal a little bit less binary. I would make it less good when it's good, and not feel as bad when you're getting like your Sihil destroyed by a 4 provision or 5 provision card, right? The way it is now, when you destroy even a bronze artifact, you're trading up. Numbers look even worse, talking about Sihil. One of the designs I really liked from old Gwent was Clear Skies, which for those of you who are newer, Clear Skies was a bronze special card that either cleared all the weather on your side of the board or had a separate mode called Rally, which would play a random bronze from your deck. Now, I'm not saying port Clear Skies into the game at all. Like, you don't want Rally in the game. It's a thinning ability that doesn't really have a place in Homecoming. In old Gwent it made sense, and here it's probably a little bit above par. But basically what Clear Skies did is it had 2 modes. Either you removed all the weather, or if you didn't care about removing the weather, you had some other useful effect, which is usually the one that you put Clear Skies in your deck to use. So against Goldweather, it was generally a no-brainer. You usually wanted to clear Goldweather because it's so much value. Against Bronze Weather, though, sometimes it was like actually a real consideration a lot of the time. Whether you wanted to clear Bronze Weather, sometimes even 2 rows you would let tick in order to use your Rally instead. And like when you play Clear Skies against a single row of weather, you were often trading down with an opposing Wild Hunt Hound or a Weather Mage that applied the weather and put points in play as well. So Homecoming has a card sort of like Clear Skies for artifacts, and the card that I'm talking about is Ida Emin. So it's a bit of a stretch, but the design comparison is there, right? If you need powerful artifact removal, Ida can do that, but it's going to cost you, right? Ida's a 4 for 8, so you're paying 4 to destroy an artifact. However, she doesn't always cost 4 for her card, right? If you don't need to destroy an artifact, you can play her as a 7, so you're paying 1 provision off of baseline, or 1 point off of the baseline for provision, in order to have like the secondary effect. Now, she's totally outclassed by a card like Frenzied Dow, right? Which is just a 7 for 8, same provision cost. It's like an Ida that both destroys an artifact and has the boost even when you're destroying the artifact. So that's not the point, right? I would prefer if all of the artifact removal was more like Ida. Have the artifact be removal cost something when you need to use it that way, but have those cards have a secondary ability, right? So imagine Elven Sapper is still at 5 provisions, but being 1 point. And instead of just destroying an artifact, have it be like a melee ability. When you play it, you deal 3 damage, and on ranged it can destroy an artifact. But you only get 1 point out of it when you destroy an artifact. So there's this trade-off of like, do I want to destroy this artifact? Am I going to want this damage effect? It doesn't feel as bad to have it in your hand in non-artifact matchups. You might even want to balance these as like 5 point for 5 provision baseline cards, so that they feel even better in other matchups. Like, you probably don't want them to be able to cheat on provisions. You likely don't want it to be like an engine unit, but it's sort of design space that was invalidated in a lot of ways. Because why would you ever play Ida over Primordial Dow? Why do you have to play these really binary bronzes in order to answer, I mean, what seems to be a core mechanic of the game, right? In artifacts. So this change alone really just makes artifacts better. What I would really like to see are some more fractional answers to artifacts in the same way we have for units. So if you don't want to like give artifacts armor and have them be destroyed or throw points on artifacts that seems too unit-liked, you can do other things, right? You can give them reach and allow movement effects to be used on them. You can row lock them and allow movement effects to be used on them. Maybe weather can be slightly tweaked in a way that has an effect on artifacts, whether you're increasing the cooldown or you're reducing the reach of an artifact, something like that. So you'd have cards that affect both units and artifacts, and that would be the idea, right? It would be less all or nothing. There would be ways to answer artifacts that isn't like just straight up destroy. Locking artifacts might be too functionally similar to destroying them, but what about locking them down for a certain number of turns, right? Have there be a card that says target artifact can't be used for the next 3 turns. And that would go a long way to like providing, again, a fractional answer to artifact, something that doesn't totally destroy the artifact, but gives you a point of interaction as well. And I think that's a lot of what artifacts are missing right now. There are some other problems, like some being able to use orders and follow it up with a Scorch in the same turn make these cards a lot stronger, right? Being able to like line up Regises the same turn you're playing Regis, being able to line up Scorches, Epidemics, all of that is probably an issue as well. However, I think the major issue with artifacts is just how bad it feels to interact with them, because it's either a blowout or you're getting blown out by them, and it doesn't feel very good either way for either player. Yeah, so I guess that's all I really wanted to say. Wanted to throw this video up on YouTube. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time.